Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the New England Racing Show, Manchester, New Hampshire Community TV, Channel 23, and we're also on YouTube. And like us on Facebook, you'll get the show automatically on your Facebook page. Well, we're going to continue our interviews from the Racers Expo back in February 7th and February 8th. We have some really good interviews for you today. We have four of them to start off with. Mike Parks, the founder of the Granite State Pro Stock Series and also a racer. Anthony Nocella, who is a NEMA runner, NEMA Light and NEMA, also runs on the Valenti Modified Racing Series, and this year is going to run a dirt midget up at Bear Ridge. We have John McKennedy, who's a former Valenti Series champion and an ISMA driver, one of the top drivers on the ISMA Tour. Gary DeGasparre Jr., seven-time late model champion at Seekonk Speedway. He gave a really good interview. So the four of them are coming up, and it's hard to believe, but next Saturday, a week from Saturday, which is the 29th and the 30th, Saturday and Sunday at Waterford, is scheduled opening day. They're going to have a lot of modifieds. NEMA's going to be there, the midgets, late models, I believe Legends cars, all kinds of classes. But what they're trying to do is this coming Saturday, the 22nd, is a cleanup day scheduled for Waterford. You know how it is after the snow melts, and there's a lot of debris around. We need people to help clean up. So if you're a racer watching this before Saturday, come down and give the Speed Bowl a little hand. We'll be there. We have to do some boards on the grandstand, some seating, and just general cleanup. And I understand they're going to help you out on your pit passes if you do that. So that's the deal for this coming Saturday. And we'll go right to the interviews now. We'll start with Mike Parks.
Yes, is the gentleman that runs the Granite State Pro Stock Series. We'll talk about that, but we want to kind of establish the ground rules here. Let's talk about your career, Mike Parks. Nice to have you with us here at Racers Expo.
Well, thanks for having us. Career-wise, just a pro stock racer. It's, we have a lot of fun doing it, and just keep plugging away at it.
Monadnock, Claremont, or Twin State. You've been at it a long, long time.
Yeah, we started, built some street stocks back in the mid-'80s. Got out of it for a few years when my son was growing up playing football, and then jumped back in with both feet in the early 90s and mid-'90s, I guess, and went pro stock racing around 2000. Did the Pass Series for a couple years, and then we went weekly racing at Twin State, Canaan, Monadnock, and traveled around, bounced around, barnstormed a little bit, and then started doing the Granite State Pro Stock Series here 3 years ago.
Let's talk about that. The concept of the Granite State Pro Stock Series, how did that come about?
Well, it was a brainstorm of John Hoyt and myself, kind of modeled after the Modified Racing Series, as John was the race director for the Modified Racing Series, and so we kind of modeled it after that. Same format, same ideas, same philosophy. There was a need for it with pro stock racing as it had pretty much dried up on a weekly as a weekly division, and there were still a lot of the guys that still wanted to race that type of car. And for whatever reason, it was failing on a weekly basis, so we decided we'd try to put a tour together. And first season we had, I think, we did one show as a knockoff event to see how much interest there was, and the interest was there. So the first full season we had 6 events, and then we progressively got a few more each year.
2013, you expanded from that one race, and you put together a very good schedule and had some very, very good races. Before we talk about now and looking ahead, let's talk about the 2013 season. How'd you feel coming out of that?
Awesome. When we're able to book the events at Thompson, that, in my mind, put us on the map, per se. and we were able to compete at probably two of the most prestigious events in New England, the Icebreaker and the World Series, and that got our cars in front of large audiences, and we came out of the box at Thompson with a 50-lapper with a fantastic race where I think we had one or two cautions and nobody tore up any equipment, and it started the season off on the right foot. And we just went from there.
And you were able to get into other racetracks that I know that they were tracks that you wanted to get to, and you were able to successfully book shows there, like Hudson International.
Yeah, Bob Weber has been a huge supporter of what we've done with dates at Star and Hudson, and we'll continue to move that forward.
Let's talk about 2014. Is the schedule similar? What can we expect? I believe you've got a new venue this year.
Yeah, actually, we have a couple different new venues. We're going to White Mountain Motorsports Park in September, and we're going to Lee USA Speedway in July, which are two premier facilities in New England, so that helps us a lot.
What's the interest been coming off 13? Are you seeing a stronger car competitive base, different names that we can expect to see? How many guys are coming back from last year?
Absolutely. The interest is exceeding what we ever thought it would. A lot of interest from Maine. Bradley Babb's going to come race with us full time. Dylan Moltz, a former Waterford competitor, Dylan's going to race with us full time. Alan Tardif is going to race with us full time, and everybody that has raced with us is coming back. I think we'll have a solid car count of 22 to 28 cars at every event. So I don't think we can ask for anything more than that.
And of course, the success from last year. Word gets around fast, and I'm sure a lot of drivers, inquiring as to how the 2013 season played out with car counts, officiating, that sort of thing. I think you came out of it with a feather in your cap.
We can't complain at all. I mean, everything went very well. The staff we've been able to assemble has been phenomenal. The competitors have been really, really good. I mean, every race hasn't been perfect, but that's not going to happen in any series. We've had our ups and downs as far as some of the races have gone, but all in all, they've been very, very good.
And so you'll be a part of this year's Icebreaker coming up at Thompson here pretty soon.
Yeah, everybody's working hard, getting staff in place, and everybody's getting the cars in place, and we'll be ready to go the first weekend in April. Mike,
good to see you. Wish you the very best this coming summer.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
All right, Mike Parks, president of the Granite State Pro Stock Series, joining us here at the Races Expo.
To visit with us, Anthony Acela, who has certainly, in a very short period of time, created a pretty impressive resume, and you're going to even expand upon it even more in 2014. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, we had a pretty good year last year. Ran a couple midget shows, and then all the Valenti modified shows, and then this year we planned again to run. Probably going to try to run all the Valenti shows again, and then the 3 open tri-track open races, and then probably a few NEMA midget shows, and then we're going to also, Seymour's are going to build a dirt midget, so we're going to go, whenever we have any free time, we're all going to go up there and run that, because we ran a couple last year and had a lot of fun, so try that again.
I find it fascinating because you were born and bred not only in open wheel racing, but on asphalt. And now that you've had a taste of dirt, how much do you have to unlearn? How much do you have to keep telling your butt when the car starts to get loose that it's good, not bad?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely ran a lot of asphalt and stuff, and then went and ran some of the dirt, and I had a lot of fun doing it. It was definitely a lot different driving style. It kind of just, depending on the track conditions, change so much more kind of as it dries out or it's wet or whatever, and you have to just move all around on the racetrack or drive the car different. Sometimes you rear barely on the gas. Other times you don't even lift and run as hard as you can around the outside or whatever. And just kind of a lot to get used to, but I think it's a lot of fun and really helps you driving and kind of makes you always thinking what you can do. If the car's off a little bit, there's a lot more opportunity to move around on the track and kind of figure out a way to make the car go good.
You've made your bones in the Valenti Modified Series, and that, let's be honest, over the course of the last few years has really taken off in terms of popularity. As a driver, what do you like about the Valenti Modified Series?
Definitely. It's a real, I had a lot of fun doing it. It's definitely a real, very competitive tour. You have to, pretty much every race you had to make it. You had to qualify in. They had enough cars. They were sending guys home, and the competition, every car, you look at a timesheet, and every car is almost every car in the field is right together, and just you have to be. It's a lot of you have to be kind of right on your game to run good and get in the races, and I think it helps you a lot to kind of you have to make everything. You're trying to get everything perfect every week to make sure you're right on your game and keep up with everyone.
You play golf?
No, I don't.
All right, well then good, because I don't either, but I've heard people say that running in a Valenti series, because of the fact that they're not these extra long distance races and because of the tire rules, it's kind of like when you go off and you get on a par 5 and you need to hit the absolute sweet spot with that driver. Strikes me that the same thing. You can't engage in tire management, but what you've got to do is you've got to figure out when to go and when to ride.
Yeah, definitely. Tires we had, they're changing it a little bit for this year, but last year and stuff, you definitely had to go hard enough to get up there and be up towards the front, but you had to really make sure you never slip the tire at all or anything like that, and really take care of them to make sure you had enough for the last, say, 25, 30 laps, so you could have enough so you can go and not have, or else you go too early, you had nothing left for the end, and you were going backwards at the end.
You also do some time with the NEMAs, and midget racing is, well, it's near and dear to my heart. I know it's near and dear to your heart. If you had to explain to somebody that's a full fendered or even a modified racing fan what the sensation is as a driver when you strap yourself in one of those pocket rockets, how would you do it?
It's definitely a lot of fun. They're so light and a lot of power and just so small. They're fast. They feel faster, and you're right on the ground, and they're just a ton of power, and you can really drive the thing hard right around the tree. You're running the thing hard all the time, and just go for as much as you can, and kind of they're so darty and quick. You can get in and out of traffic real quick, and it's very competitive. I think a lot of fun to drive.
When you have a full-bodied stock car, you got the advantage of the rearview mirror, you got the advantage of the spotter, a lot of things to keep you abreast of what's happening. When you're inside that midget, especially with the big wing, how much do you have to trust your own sixth sense to know who's in and around you?
Yeah, you kind of see what you can see, but you can't see the wheels or nothing or anything like that, so you kind of have to guess where you are a little bit, and then you really have to listen a little bit. Sometimes you can hear a guy a little on the outside or coming underneath you, and just see him out of the corner of your eye or whatever, or hear him, and then you know he's there, and sometimes you just got to go for it and hope there's no one there and try to make the pass.
What's your ultimate goal with motorsports?
Like to, definitely get as far as I can. A lot of it's money now, stuff like that, but I have fun doing all this different types of racing. I'd love to try a super sometime, and even get onto the NASCAR tour with a modified and run some of those races. I'd definitely like to try that. That would be a good goal. And I'd also like to sometime go out now and running more on the dirt and stuff like that. I always the sprint cars and stuff out in the Midwest, all that type of stuff without a wing, and Silver Crown cars. I'd love to try one of those sometime.
For you as an aspiring racer, is that your bucket list? Are those the things that you'd like to accomplish?
Definitely. You go watch them, and they just something about them. Good racing and a lot of power and light cars and stuff, and they just seemed awesome to watch. So I would assume they'd be very fun to drive, and the people I talk to say they are. So I just love to try them sometime.
You got a very busy schedule ahead of you in 2014, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you, definitely.
Racers Expo, we've run into another I shouldn't say aspiring driver, JK, because you've been at this for quite some time. First of all, what's on the docket for you in 2014?
We're going to run the full ISMA tour with Paul Dunning Super and try to run for a championship. That's the plan, and run some selected modified races. Trying to get some sponsorship worked out, and if everything goes planned, plan on racing a handful of modified races and definitely the full ISMA tour.
We were talking to Otto Sitterly, who's a regular, and you know him very well from Oswego, and one of the things he was talking about is the dramatic difference between what I call the Oswego Super Modifieds and those ISMA Super Modifieds with the articulated wing. When you have the advantage of that kind of downforce, and how do you feel it? Do you feel it in the seat of your pants? How deep can you carry those cars into a corner?
Yeah, the wing definitely is obviously a huge difference. That top wing can make as much as a few thousand pounds of downforce, so the car got a ton of stability, and I think with the wing, the car is a little bit more forgiving. I think any car with high downforce, the cars are more forgiving. But yeah, it's definitely a different animal.
The ISMA series, I know you're a bit disappointed because ISMA had been part of Extreme Tuesday and then Extreme Saturday at Stafford Motor Speedway for a number of years, and they've elected not to renew the relationship in the immediate future, just at a time when you began to figure that darn place out.
That's right. The first, 3 or 4 years, I'll admit I was awful there.
Did you feel like a monkey trying to mount a football?
I don't know about that, but it might have been close. And we had some good runs here and there, but we just seemed like nothing seemed to go good there. I got in a real bad accident there, and but the last 3 seasons there, things started turning around, and I had a lot of help with some guys. Kenny Berry helped me a lot, someone who ran there for years, and he ran good there. He sat me down before one of the Modified Racing Series races and explained to me where I needed to go, and it made a huge difference. We ended up winning that race. We had an awesome race with Teddy Christopher, and I was able to get by him on an outside pass, and me and him went at it hard. We were able to win, so that was a huge turning point for me, and since then we've had some good top 3, top 5 runs, so it's been a definite change the last few years.
Let's talk a little bit about the Valenti Modified Racing Series because, as I've said, this is a series that was an outshoot maybe or an outgrowth of people that no longer felt that they could participate at the level of a regional touring series like the Whelen Modified Series, and now they've taken on a life of their own. What separates, in your mind as a driver, the Valenti Modified Series from something like a regional touring series of NASCAR like the Whelen Modified Tour?
I think the biggest thing is it's more affordable. To run the NASCAR Whelen Tour, it's obviously a really cool tour. They race at some really great venues, and they have TV time here and there. But ultimately, it's just an extremely expensive, tour to run, and a tour like the MRS deal, it's a lot more affordable. And at the same time, you have great car count, great competition, and everyone wants to run tour, but like I said, the financial part of it's really tough.
And yet, you just related a story about that great finish at Stafford with a guy like Teddy Christopher. A lot of the names on the side of those modified racing series cars are the same names that are on the sides of the Whelen Modified Tour cars. Do they drive differently? I mean, when they race, and you got to be up on the wheel the way the Valenti Tour demands because of the short distances and the way you have to deal with tire management. Is there a different approach when you go at it with these guys?
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, basically with the tour stuff, you run the car full tilt the whole race, halfway through, come in, bolt a set of tires on, go back out, and at it again full tilt. The MRS deal is a lot different. A lot of it's tire management, having good throttle control to keep the tires under you. So in a way, it's definitely it's a lot different. It's more challenging, and I think a lot of guys, have a hard time adapting to that. It's a different type of racing. It's more finesse, and trying to make a set of Hoosiers last 100 laps on an old wore-out track it's definitely challenging. And I feel like sometimes the MRS series doesn't get the credit they deserve. But hey, a lot of them guys are good drivers, and they hold their own. I mean, and it proves that for the last several years when the tour guys do race with us. I mean, a lot of them struggle, and some of the top, teams with drivers. So it's definitely a competitive tour, and it's a different type of racing, but ultimately it's the same deal. You're looking for the same thing. You got to make a set of tires last.
One of the true greats in IndyCar racing, Rick Mears, once told me this story. He said, and you're kind of this mild-mannered guy, low-key, when we're out here at the Racers Expo. He said the thing that he liked, and he was that kind of low-key, is when he could put that helmet on and he could flip that visor down, he could be a stark, raving lunatic. Do you look at it the same way when you finally cinch your seatbelts up and be able to drop the visor?
Yeah, it's definitely...
I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's when you strap the helmet on, things are different. You're definitely in your own world, and it's just it's hard to explain. But when the helmet's on, you definitely got a whole different focus. And at least for me, anyway, I haven't really no other thoughts of what else is going on, but what's going on in that race car at that time, and trying to move forward and trying to kind of see how the race is playing out. And when I catch up to a car, I try to anticipate what he's doing before I catch up to him, so I don't waste time passing him, stuff like that. So, yeah, when the helmet goes on, it's definitely a different mindset.
We wish you the very best this season.
Cool, thanks.
To a lot of the racers here at the Racers Expo here in Marlborough, Massachusetts, and wandering in, multi-time late model champion from the Seekonk Speedway. And I got to ask you, once you figure that damn place out, does it become easier?
Yeah, it does actually. I don't know. I never really thought it was hard. Probably 'cause
Why not? Because it was home.
it was home for me. I go to Thompson, I find Thompson hard. I go to Lee, I find Lee hard. You talk to anybody else there, they find Seekonk hard. I think it's all where you're growing up.
You know, and I think that's one of the great things about a place like Seekonk. Second, third, fourth generations. Not only driving, not only crew chiefing, not only building cars, but sitting in the stands. So you do get that family feeling, and it kind of like by osmosis, you become part of that Seekonk culture.
Absolutely. My family still sits in the same section from when I was a kid watching. Some things just, things don't change.
When you were a kid, did you dream about the success that you've had?
No way. Not even. I couldn't fathom the success in my wildest dreams, Jack.
So what's ahead in 2014?
Oh, we're going to try to repeat our crown, our title. We're going back for another crown in that. And we're actually going to break out a pro stock this year and going to debut a pro stock up there.
That's a step up.
Yeah. We're partnering up with Lifeline Motorsports and ourselves. And we're going to run a pro stock maybe 6-7 times, see how we do, tinkering that as well as the late model stuff and give it a shot, see how we fare.
Jerry, when you look at it, do you think there's a lot that transfers from the late model to the pro stock?
I do, but everybody tells me I don't. I personally think there's, I've driven a few there. I think it's going to be a learning curve. I don't expect to come out with instant success by any means. I'm sure they'll teach me my lessons, and hopefully it's not too hard.
It's been a long time since you've had some lessons taught to you. You usually are the teacher. So how do you prepare yourself for not, and let's be honest, not running at the front?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. But the other thing is, we run other racetracks, too, and we're not always at the front. Usually when we go to Lee, we run up front. This year we didn't. Thompson, we run up front. This year we were mediocre. So we don't expect success everywhere we go. I mean, we try for it, but we're realists at the same time.
I've been fortunate enough to do major league, minor league, short track, super speedways. I've always tried to explain to people that the common denominator is the same for the David Pearsons and the Jimmy Johnsons down to the Saturday night racer. Do you see it the same way? Because, look, you're a racer, so you're watching TV. You're seeing these guys, the Tony Stewarts of the world. But do you think that you have the same drive and the same ambition as those guys and the same skill?
I think the farther down you come, they have more desire. I think they work harder. I still to this day truly believe that guys in street stocks and trucks and those guys put in as many hours, if not more, than the guys that run in higher division, because in those divisions it's harder to run better all the time. They don't have the capabilities and the cars aren't equipped with the same updated stuff that the upper divisions, so it's harder. So yeah, I think everybody has the same drive, if not more.
What would you give for a shot to go at it with some of the top names in the game?
Who's the top names?
You tell me.
I don't know how far up we're talking. I mean,
Hey, I just posed the question. You can make it. You can make the answer any way you want.
I think competition's the best. It's all about competition. Unfortunately, as the economy's gone downhill, so hasn't the competition level and the car counts. And it doesn't matter what track you go to. It's Seekonk, Thompson, Stafford, Waterford, Lee. Car counts are down everywhere. Competition's down because people just can't afford it right now. Unfortunately, it's a hobby. It's not a necessity. I thrive for competition. I'd love to go out and race against some of the best people at other racetracks, and heaven forbid if we ever could go any farther than that. But competition is what makes it happen, Jack.
And see, let me stay with that thread for a second, because I think sometimes people mistake competition with what I call the acceleration of the dollar factor to go faster. You don't necessarily have to be fast to be competitive. And what I mean is I'm not buying into spec racing, but what I'm saying is even the fan sitting in the seats, He doesn't care whether you're doing 80 miles an hour or 180 miles an hour. What he gets excited about is when you guys are going nose to tail and side by side and swapping the lead or swapping a position back and forth. Inside the at this even longer than you. And one of the things that I always say is people say, well, what's the difference from the days of Dee Castell and the days of Freddie Schultz and the days of Bugsy Stevens and Richie Evans? And I say the common denominator for drivers is the same, but what's absent is maybe a level of mutual respect. As a driver, do you agree or disagree?
I agree 100%. As a kid growing up, and I went in the pits and I met the Bugsies, the Georgie Summers, the Dee Castells, the George Savorys. I mean, I can go on with the legends, Leo Cleary. Those guys were like great friends, and they respected each other, but they drove hard. Nowadays, even racing at Seekonk or crew chiefing for Rick Gentes at Thompson, there is no respect between, and I don't know if it's the points that makes it happen or the egos that make it happen, but those guys would race you hard and bump you and let you straighten out and let you know they're there. Nowadays, they'd wreck you and they'd spin you, and that's not respect.
See, I have this opinion, and I'd like to get your thoughts. Is part of it is because today's generation got, unlike you and unlike me, that hung on the fence at a place like Stafford or Waterford or Plainville or Seekonk. We got schooled at it like a gym rat. A lot of the guys that are doing it now, all they know is what they see on TV. They take the late, great Dale Earnhardt when he said to Terry Labonte, I didn't mean to spin him out, I just wanted to rattle his cage. And he doesn't understand the nuanced difference between that and parking a guy.
Well, I think, and it became even more evident. I agree with you 100% on that. And then the battle at the beach last year, I mean, every race was divided by someone spinning to win someone. Stefanik, Steve Park. Who else was there?
Every show.
Yeah.
It was the last lap, last corner. Yeah. Beep, beep, here's the chrome horn.
Yeah, you're gone. Yeah. And they promoted it, and they let it happen. So if they're going to let that happen at the highest level, why aren't they going to let it happen at the lowest level? So it's the trickle-down effect, unfortunately. And I wasn't brought up to race like that, so it's tough for me to adapt to that or to, I guess, digest that.
Well, let's just leave it that be pleased and proud of the fact that you're a track rat. Okay? I think it's a lot better. It's good to see you again, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and it's a great show. Thank you for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the interviews. We have another couple of shows with more interviews of the really good drivers coming up. And then we have a special show this last Friday night at the Midget NEMA meeting. We had a special guest, Irish Saunders from Hoosier Tire. He's the Hoosier Tire guru. And he came and spoke to us for over an hour. And it's everything you want to know about Hoosier racing tires, how to deal with them at the track, and how to make them last. I was just amazed. It was the fastest 70 or 80 minutes that ever went by. And he took a lot of questions from people and gave us a lot of really good information. So you're going to like that. We're going to have to probably do it in 3 parts. But that's coming up after our interviews. And we'll also have highlights from the Waterford race if it goes off. I understand if it gets postponed the week after on April 5th or 6th is the opening day at Thompson, and then I guess Waterford will run the week after that. So let's hope the snow melts. I still have 2 feet of snow banks on my side of my driveway, and my trailer's still snowed in. So I don't mind shoveling the trailer out to go racing, and just keep our fingers crossed for the weather. But anyway, we'll see you all here next week with more interviews, and thanks for joining us.